What is going on, beautiful people? We are back, Subs and Dubs, episode 13, and we're talking UFC Vegas 85. UFC had a little week off. Now we're back, and we're back for a while. We got 11 straight weeks of UFC, so we're going to be here every week talking fights as long as you guys will have me. So I won't try to keep you guys too long. We got a lot of fights going down tomorrow night. So I want to get right into it. I like a couple of spots. I like some dogs. There's some interesting spots that I like. So want to get right into it. Get you guys in, get you guys out, and give you guys everything you might need to get you ready for UFC Vegas 85. So before we get into the fights, I want to shout out the couple of sponsors to the video. So the first one being Sleeper. You guys hear me talk about this all the time. Shout out Sleeper, one of the best DFS platforms in the world. If you're looking for props for any type of sport and you're new to Sleeper, now's the perfect time to do so. So download Sleeper, sign up using the code GoldBoys, and you get a deposit match up to $500. So best offer I've seen from any DFS platform. So jump on that offer while you can. Thank you guys for sponsoring the video. So yeah, let's get right into it. Make sure you hit that like button before we get into the fights. If you're excited for some UFC. So let's get right into it. So I'm interested in the first fight of the night. We got Thomas Petersen fighting Jamal Pogues. At the time of recording, Thomas Petersen sitting around minus 155, minus 160, and a comeback on Jamal Pogues around plus 140. So I know a lot of smart people, a lot of my guys that I really respect that would absolutely hate that I have action on this fight. But it is what it is. I couldn't pass up what I felt like was a ton of value. So I'm on the Jamal Pogues side. So I locked in Jamal Pogues money line at plus 145. Like I said, right now, at the time of recording, it's plus 140. Still don't mind it there. I think this line is severely mispriced. Obviously Thomas Petersen coming off a dominant contender series win. But looking deeper into this, he's 8-1, only 9 professional fights. He's coming off that contender series win, like I said, versus Chandler Cole. But I mean, Chandler Cole is, if you guys watch that fight, he's like a bag of milk. You know what I'm saying? He looks like he probably shouldn't have been in there with a guy like Thomas Petersen, much smaller than Thomas Petersen. And that's kind of been a theme throughout Petersen's career. Fighting guys that are smaller than him and fighting guys that have no business being in the octagon, in my opinion. So, even guys like a Richard Foster, which was the fight before Chandler Cole on Contender Series. That guy looks like he works at Target. He looks like a taxi driver. He absolutely zero striking, absolutely zero adversity posed on the ground. Just had nothing for Thomas Petersen. And Thomas Petersen, with that wrestling background, is able to just kind of dominate guys that don't know how to wrestle or grapple. I mean, it's pretty simple. And that's kind of been the story of his career. Only time we've seen him tested is against Waldo Cortez Acosta, who, we just saw a couple weeks ago against Andre Arlovsky. He went to war with 40-year-old Andre Arlovsky, and that fight was interesting, right? Because that was the first and only fight so far in Petersen's career that he's been tested, that he's faced any type of adversity, any type. That fight went into the third round. He got takedowns on Waldo in the first round, but Waldo was able to get back up, use his athleticism. But even at that point, Waldo was still very, very early in his professional career. I think Waldo was like 5-1, and you could just tell how raw he was skill-wise. Waldo, obviously a former athlete, a former baseball player, and that showed. The striking wasn't as crisp as what you kind of see now. His cardio looked a little worse than what you see now from him in the UFC. And that's a fight where, like I said, Petersen gets extended. He wins the first round just kind of based on takedowns and mat returns of Waldo. And then he starts to really slow down in that second round. The takedowns become way more labored. Everything becomes way more labored as he's slowing down. And by the time the third round comes, Petersen is gassed. He's shooting from halfway across the octagon. Takedowns become a million times harder. And I believe that's where the knockout came. Petersen shot for a takedown, and he really get it kind of up against the cage. And Waldo just hit him with a nasty right hand and puts him out. And that was a couple of fights ago in LFA. So, then you give him a couple cans that he crushes, and now he fights Jamal Pogues. Jamal Pogues is not anything special, I don't think, but I think he's going to pose some real problems for a guy like Thomas Petersen. First of all, Jamal Pogues has fought the much, much better competition. Even guys like Josh Parisian, who I don't think is necessarily UFC caliber. Even guys like Mick Parkin, who I don't see, as a top contender in heavyweight, even though I do think Mick Parson is talented. He's faced a way better competition, more UFC experience, more overall professional MMA experience. And this guy is not gonna, this guy is a real fighter. He's gonna present problems to Thomas Petersen. Jamal Pogues has great cardio. I think that's gonna be a major edge in this fight. As Thomas Petersen is slowing down, Jamal Pogues doesn't really do that. Jamal Pogues doesn't. His fight style isn't inducive of big actions and wasting a ton of energy as these rounds go by. He likes to kind of stay on the outside, use his jab, let off some kicks, and just kind of pick you apart. I also don't think Jamal's going to get dominated in the wrestling. We've seen Jamal have success offensively wrestling in the Parisian fight. I think he got like 4 or 5 takedowns in that fight. We've seen his defensive wrestling be pretty good. And he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So, I'm not saying Thomas Petersen can't get him down. I think there's a good chance he does get him down in round 1. But Jamal Pogues, whether it's using that BJJ to kind of attack submissions to get up, or just kind of working his way back up, I trust Jamal Pogues to not get taken down once and the fight be over. So I really like Jamal Pogues here at the plus money price, especially a decent plus money price, like plus 145. He's the much, much better striker, much better cardio, in my opinion. And I just don't know. I don't get this price at all. What has Thomas Petersen done to be minus 170, minus 180 against a guy with multiple UFC fights, UFC wins, a guy that can give heavyweights problems? Usually if you are an elite wrestler, you're going to have a lot of success in the heavyweight division because there's guys that just don't know how to wrestle. But that's not the case with Jamal Pogues. So I think it's very dangerous to, overrate a guy coming off a contender series win, a dominant win against a guy that probably shouldn't be in there. And that's a spot that I love to fade, right? A UFC debut, especially off the contender series, especially off a dominant win. And now he's, almost a 2-1 favorite. Those are all the spots that I love to fade. So, Jamal Pogues, not known to be a finisher, not known to have crazy power. But like I said, I think he's going to give him some problems. And as Thomas Petersen starts to slow down, rounds 2, rounds 3, I think Jamal Pogues can put it on him and possibly get him out of there. So I'm going to look for some props and all of that stuff. I'm not eager. I'm not running to the window to play any props. But Jamal Pogues, round 3, I think it was sitting like plus 2,000, plus 2,500, somewhere around there. I'm probably going to play that. That's probably going to get my money, to be honest. Yeah. So I think Jamal can put it on him in round 3. Petersen just being gas as fuck like he was in a Waldo fight. Yeah, really like this spot for Jamal at plus money. Kind of give him a little bit of a vet lesson. So I think Petersen will pick up some UFC wins, maybe. But I don't think it's this one. A lot of people have made a lot about Jamal Pogues, weight coming in, and it's kind of justified. He's come in his UFC fights at all different kind of weights. How serious is he taking it? All of that stuff. But from what I'm seeing, like on his Instagram and what I'm hearing from him and his coaches and the people around him, he looks to be in good shape. Again, we're recording this before he stepped on the scales, but he looks to be in good shape. And from everything I'm hearing, he's taking it, more serious than he ever has. So hopefully that leads to one of the best performances of his career. So, we mentioned Petersen is used to facing smaller guys as well. Jamal is going to be taller, longer reach, about the same age. So now you're fighting a guy that's bigger than you, that can actually wrestle offensively and defensively. So really like the spot for Jamal Pogues. I know it's a sloppy heavyweight fight to open the card, but too much value for me to pass up on personally. All right, so the next fight that I have action in is actually a second fight of the night. Very, very interesting fight. This fight should be a banger. Landon Quinones is fighting Markel Mederos. Best price I'm seeing currently is Mederos minus 135, and the best comeback on Landon Quinones is plus 120. So I'm on the Mederos side. I locked in Markel Mederos at minus 135. For a couple of reasons. We talked about in the Petersen fight, not overvaluing guys off a big contender series win versus guys that shouldn't be in there. I think another thing that's kind of dangerous is overrating guys off a loss. And, that's what I'm hearing a lot of this week, in terms of, Landon Quinones just fought Hack Perez, and he looked good. And, Hack Perez is a UFC vet and he's picked up UFC wins. I disagree. I don't think Landon looked that good in that fight. He had success in the first round with the leg kicks, started really, really eating up Hack Perez's calf. Other than that, maybe he showed his toughness, and his durability. That's the next best thing for me. Hack Perez beat the fuck out of Landon in rounds 2 and 3. So I feel like people are trying to spin that and he lasted against Hack Perez or oh, he had success in the first round. When I watched that fight, I see a guy getting his ass beat for 2 rounds. So I know some judges had a 29-28, kind of giving him the first round, but Hack Perez is not even really known as a power guy, one punch knockout guy, and he was hurting Quinones in those second and third rounds. So that's kind of what I mean about overrating guys off a loss. Listen, he stepped in there and fought a guy that has top 15 potential. So shout out to him, to step in there and be able to, I guess, survive. But I didn't take much away from that. I take more away from looking at his regional tape. He's a dangerous guy. He seems to be pretty durable. Yet to been finished in 10 pro fights. Pretty good kicks like we saw in the Hack Perez fight. Pretty coherent striking. So he's a dangerous guy. Still young, right? 28 years old. But on the Mederos side, I think Mederos has shown flashes of being special. And I'm hesitant to say that about Mederos. I'm way quicker to say guys, that we've talked about in prior episodes are special. Guys like Joshua Van, guys like that. But I think Mederos has shown flashes of being special. And I think he's going to have advantages in this fight. He's also coming off a Dana White Contender Series win against Isa Isakov, and I bet Isakov in that spot. I thought the wrestling would be too much. Mederos showed good offensive wrestling in his regional tape, but I didn't really see much, dominant defensive wrestling and takedown defense. So I thought, Isakov was, pretty big for the division. I thought he'd have a lot of success grappling, and boy, was I wrong. About as wrong as can be. Mederos was able to stuff the takedowns, back him up, keep Isa on the back foot and up against the cage, and landed a beautifully timed knee off of an entry, off of a takedown attempt from Isakov and flatlined him, knocked him out, one shot, dead. So very impressive performance. Fighting out of Factory X. He's also, about to be 28 years old, 27 years old. So still super young, fighting out of a good gym. Only 9 fights in his pro career. So expecting him to still make leaps and be better. He hasn't faced the best level of competition. On the regionals, there's a lot of guys that, just like we were talking about Thomas Petersen, a lot of guys that probably shouldn't be in there, but, he's taking care of of them and handle them how he should. And like I said, I think he's gonna have a bunch of advantages in the spot. Both guys like to, kick like their kicks. I think Mederos' kicks are much nastier, much more devastating. I think he throws the kicks with more frequency, so I think he's gonna be eating up Landon's calves. I think he's gonna be quicker than Landon. I think he's gonna be more powerful than Landon. We saw in that hack press fight, Landon likes to, at some points he can be high volume, but it's a lot of touching. It's a lot of just throwing lazy shit out there and touching you rather than planting your feet and throwing with power. And I think that can be an advantage for Mederos as well. Both guys' striking defense leaves some stuff to be desired, but Landon at times just a punching bag. Landon's volume is very inconsistent in my opinion. And he's there to be hit. Hackparas was teeing the fuck off on Landon, just kind of backing him up, throwing whatever he wants and landing whatever he wants. And I don't think you could do that against a guy like Mederos. Lightning fast, very crisp, straight punches, very good combos. I think he's going to be, a bit more aggressive in this spot, and yeah, I think those are enough advantages to take him as a slight favorite. Like I said, I locked him in at minus 135. And I'm buying a little bit into the upside, of him potentially being special, in the lightweight division. So I'm not going to get all the way there. I'm not going to say 100%. This kid is special and he has a future, but I think this is a good first stepping stone to hopefully making a little bit of a run in a lightweight division. So, like I said, Landon should not be slept on. I think he's gonna beat some UFC guys. Because when he's moving forward and pressuring and stuff like that, he can be dangerous. We saw that at times in a hack press fight, but I believe that hack press fight was short notice too. So I don't want to knock the cardio too much, but I've seen other fights, regionally as well, where come middle end of the second round, he's kind of slowing down, the volume falls off. I don't see that with Mederos. I think Mederos is going to push forward, keep landing on his back foot, which kind of reduces the effects of the kicks, reduces his pressure. I think he's going to be dictating where the fight goes. And I think Mederos is, we haven't talked about this at all yet, but I think Mederos is the better wrestler all around too. Both guys are pretty well rounded. We've seen both guys implement offensive wrestling. We've seen both guys be able to defend takedowns, but I give the edge to Mederos both offensively and defensively in the wrestling game. We've seen him regionally come out with a game plan that's wrestling based and stick to that. Shoot 4, 5, 6 times in a fight and have success with it. And I think he can definitely do that in this spot. If Landon decides he wants to push forward and rush his entries, I think he can find himself on his back. I've seen Landon on his back. I forget what fight it was, but I've seen Landon on his back, and he did not look too good on his back. He kind of looked a little panicky, in my opinion. Mederos doesn't have the best control. But if you can get a guy down, control him for 30, 45 seconds, a minute of a round, those are things that can swing rounds and swing judges. So yeah, I think this is going to be a great fight. Two young guys, two well-rounded guys, but I think Mederos has a lot of edges. I would make Mederos probably minus 160, minus 175, which is nearing a 60, 65% implied win probability. So at minus 135, I think we're getting good value and buying into a little bit of upside. I'm gonna look into some props. Both guys, like I said, have shown to be pretty tough. But the way Landon defends or doesn't defend strikes, I think it's only a matter of time before he gets touched up. Like I said, hack press hurt him a bunch in that fight. At least 2 or 3 times, off the top of my head, he really hurt Landon in that fight. So, and like I said, hack press is not known to be a power puncher. So, I really like the flow of Mederos' striking. I think he's gonna touch Landon a bunch in this fight. We'll see if he can put him away. I don't think I'll have many, if any, props in this fight. Both tough guys, like I said, but yeah, really like Mederos in this spot. All right, so next fight I want to talk about is the Jung Young Lee fight. He's fighting Blake Bilder right now. Best price I'm seeing on Lee is minus 155. Best comeback on Blake Bilder is plus 130, plus 135, depending on where you look. So I had a little bit of trouble with this one. It took me a while to kind of digest everything I was watching. I taped this one a couple of times, but um I played Lee. I played Young Lee at minus 150. Um I think he has potential to finish Blake Bilder. I think he has potential to look, minus 200, minus 250 in this fight. Um, I back Blake Bilder in his last fight versus Kyle Nelson. Looking back, that looked like a terrible bet. Kyle Nelson won convincingly. He hurt Bilder a couple times in that fight. And I just see, a little bit of a theme with Blake Bilder. He's 33 years old already. I think Lee is going to have a bunch of advantages in this fight, just like we talked about last fight. Blake Bilder is kind of simple. I don't want to disrespect him. He's a dangerous guy. He can definitely crack, but he's kind of simple. He's there to be hit. Kind of moving forward, not a ton of movement. Doesn't move his head a bunch. You know, we've seen him shoot takedowns and try to offensively wrestle. I don't rate his offensive wrestling. I don't really like his process when offensively wrestling. So, I don't trust him to come out with a game plan that, I'm going to take this guy down as many times as I need to, and I'm going to dominate this fight. I don't think he really has that in his bag. Fighting Young Lee, there are some concerns, especially laying juice on a guy like this. He's a road to the UFC guy. And you look at his whole resume, he's fought, all all regional guys, Asian regional guys, and no disrespect to Asia or whatever, but Asia's not really known for pumping out, elite talent, especially in the in the men's divisions. So you can definitely poke holes in his resume, but looking at his fights, I think he's going to be much faster than Blake Bilder. If Blake Bilder decides to shoot and wants to grapple, I think Young Lee can stay on his feet. I think it's going to be a little bit of a masterclass on her feet, to be honest with you. I hate to use that word masterclass, but I think Young Lee is going to box his face off. I'm not in love with Blake Bilder's cardio, 3-round cardio. We've seen him slow down in that Nelson fight. Young Lee, I think, has crisper hands. Like I said, much faster, much crisper. I think the straight punches of Young Lee are going to beat kind of the sloppier hooks of Blake Bilder. And I think like I said at the top, I think Young Lee is going to finish Blake Bilder. I do. And like I said, I like Blake Bilder. I watched him on a Contender Series, get the finish there. I watched his UFC debut and then wind up eventually backing him in the Kyle Nelson fight, which was a huge mistake. But, and it may be a hot take, he's never been finished, in 10 pro fights. But like I said, 33 years old. Young Lee's 5 years younger, more professional experience. He's going to be faster. I think he has the edge cardio-wise. And I think this is mainly a kickboxing fight. I think Blake might, shoot for takedowns and might find himself, with some cage control, doing some cage pushing and stuff like that. But we've seen Lee in those positions before. And, although he might stay there for a little while, I trust him, like I said, to stay on his feet, get out of those positions, and win the majority of the striking exchanges. So if I think it's going to be, mostly a 15-minute kickboxing fight, and, Lee has all of these advantages standing on the feet, I don't mind paying minus 150. If I think he's going to finish him, I don't mind paying minus 150. So I'm looking at some props. I think if he finishes Blake Bilder, for some reason, I'm just really feeling a second round KO by Lee. So I might play that. Or I might just play, some finish props, maybe round 2 finish, round 3 finish, not really picking a method, just kind of picking around. But yeah, pretty simple breakdown there. I think Lee is a better striker, better cardio, more experienced professional fighter. I know Blake Bilder has more UFC experience, which is very, very valuable. But yeah, I think Lee pieces him up on the feet, boxes his face off, multiple paths to victory, in my opinion. I think he can win a decision, and I think he can finish him. So next fight I want to talk about is the Azat Maksum fight. Azat Maksum is fighting Charles Johnson. Azat Maksum right now, still catching steam throughout the entire week. Best price I'm seeing on him is minus 220. Best comeback on Charles Johnson is plus 200. So um, I don't think this is a good parlay card. There's a lot of if there's a lot of heavy favorites. You can kind of parlay. To pick two of them, pick two of your favorite ones, kind of parlay them, stuff like that. I don't think this is a card for that. We got a lot of some decently closely lined fights. So I decided to just play Maksum straight. I got him at minus 200. Minus 220 is getting to that range where personally, I know a lot of people won't, but personally, I don't mind still playing him straight. But, if you want, I think the most likely path for Maksum is by decision. Charles Johnson has proved to be extremely tough to finish, especially by sub. I really, really like Charles Johnson's sub defense. So I think the most likely path for Maksum is a decision. It's not great odds, but you're getting way better than minus 220. So maybe take that route. But I laid the 2 units to win a unit and played Maksum money line at minus 200. I think he has a really, really good chance in hindsight to look minus 300, minus 400 in this spot. So still plenty of value in my opinion. My boy Dan from Best Fight Picks, I've been on his show. I'm trying to get him on this show. We're trying to work out a time, but he always says every single Charles Johnson fight week, he says, listen, if you have top 15 aspirations and you don't know how to beat Charles Johnson, that's a big fucking problem. And I couldn't agree more. Shout out my man Dan. I could not agree more. Every single Charles Johnson fight, it's the same. It's like watching the same fight on repeat, kind of. Every single one of his opponents are able to implement a wrestling game plan. Heavy wrestling game plan. They're able to take him down multiple times and win fights that way. I mean, every single fight. I backed in Charles Johnson's last fight against Estevam. I backed Estevam because Estevam wants to wrestle. And he seemed on his regional tape Estevam to stick to that game plan. A lot of times people have this game plan. I want to shoot. I want to wrestle. Maybe it doesn't work the first time. Maybe it doesn't work the second time. And then they abandon the game plan. Estevam did not do that at all. And I love to see that shit. I was watching the fight excited as fuck. Everybody was booing because it was boring, but I was excited as fuck. Estevam shot 22 times. He shot 22 takedowns. Only got credited for 3 of them, but almost 10 minutes of control time against Charles Johnson. Looking at the stats too, and this is a little bit off topic, but this is why I don't like looking at UFC stats. I think they are very, very misleading. I think you need to watch fights and watch the tape yourself. It says Charles Johnson landed 116 strikes in that fight. I watched that fight live and I watched it back, taping this fight. I don't see 116 strikes. So I don't know if the statisticians kind of fucked that one up, or if they're counting little slaps to the face, from bottom or whatever. But 116 strikes seems like double the amount that Charles Johnson landed. Charles Johnson was on his back foot the whole time, defending takedowns the entire time, trying to get up the entire time. So, Estevam, they gave Charles Johnson the 3rd round because, at that point, Estevam was gassed. You shoot 22 times, you're probably gonna be gassed, but he was gassed and just in defensive mode in the 3rd round. But in the 1st and 2nd round, it was just if I'm not getting a takedown, I'm pushing you against the cage. I'm gonna shoot over and over and over again until I get you down. And Charles Johnson has zero answer. And like I said, we see that through Charles Johnson's entire career. Before he fought Estevam, it was Cody Durden, and we all know what Cody Durden wants to do. He's another guy that wants to relentlessly wrestle. He was able to do so and won a unanimous decision. Ode Osborne fight, same kind of thing. Ode Osborne is not, a guy that wants to dominantly wrestle you, but he knew who he was fighting. He was fighting Charles Johnson. So what am I going to do when I fight Charles Johnson? I'm going to wrestle. And that's exactly what Ode did. And won that fight. So, watching a guy like as Maksum, undefeated guy, 28 years old, 17-0, hasn't faced the greatest level of competition, but having your UFC debut be against Tyson Nam, that's a tough test. Tyson Nam is extremely dangerous. He a true finisher, good cardio, pretty good durability. That is a very, very tough opponent for your UFC debut. And he won that fight. It was a split decision. Watching it back, I think I definitely gave him the nod. In a really, really tough UFC debut, and he showed kind of what he was made of. He was able to hurt Tyson Nam, which, like I said, is pretty hard to do. We've seen Tyson Nam be relatively durable. He stung Tyson Nam a bunch in that fight. Utilizes leg kicks, nasty leg kicks. Just nasty striking overall from Azat. Really, really good straight punches. Throws and combos a lot. Really crisp combos, lightning fast. Like I said, goes to the kicks a bunch, and really well rounded in my opinion. We saw him go to the takedowns in that fight. He tried to work a consistent offensive wrestling game in that fight. Tyson Nam just has incredible takedown defense. It was kind of stonewalling him in the first and second rounds, and then we saw him finally, get to him in the third round. He was able to kind of ragdoll Tyson Nam at the end of that third round. So really, really well rounded, and I don't see any reason why Azat doesn't come in. If him or his team watched even a little bit of fucking tape, it's gonna be, let me come in. Yeah, I'm gonna strike with him a little bit and stuff like that, but take him down and work his offensive wrestling. I don't think he'll have any problem doing that. I like Azat's cardio too. I think he has really good 15-minute cardio. Charles Johnson's cardio is a question mark to me. I know he's able to put it on guys in the third round, but a lot of those times it's his opponent is just being completely gassed in the third round. So it's much, much easier to put it on guys when they're gassed. And even in that Estevan fight, Estevan was standing in front of him, gassed as fuck, and he didn't go for it. He didn't really put it on Estevan, because he was gassed too. I've seen him multiple times. Like at the end of the first round, he goes back to his corner, and the corner's talking to him, and he's like hunched over, like he looks like he's about to die. And that's after 5 minutes of fighting. You know, Once he gets extended to the second and third round, it's not like he's death gassed, but the volume drops off. You see it in his body language. He's a lot less active, a lot less forward motion, not a lot less of pushing his opponent backwards. So, I favor Azat's cardio. I favor his more well-rounded game. I think he's going to implement all the game plan every other Charles Johnson opponent has implemented. I think he's going to be able to get takedowns, spend time on top. And I think he has success striking too, especially with the kicks. A long, lanky guy like Charles Johnson, get to his legs, take out his legs with the kicks. Should make it a little bit easier to wrestle too. Guys that, you flow the striking into the wrestling, making the wrestling a little bit easier. And yeah, I think this is the last we're going to see of Charles Johnson, at least for now in the UFC. He's 33 years old, 3 straight losses. I think this is going to be his fourth. And that's another point that I want to emphasize too. Off 3 straight losses when you're potentially fighting for your job, that can lead to a lot of different things, right? I think Charles Johnson can come out super, super aggressive because he knows, okay, I need a win. I don't think that's good for him. I think if he comes out, guns blazing, I think he can, I think the offensive takedown is going to be easier for Maksum. I think he can hit him on the feet if he's just kind of rushing in, or Charles Johnson could come out very hesitant. And I think that's also bad. 3 straight losses, I really need a win. Let me try to be really, really safe and come out not super aggressive and just try to point my way to a win. I don't think that's good for him either. Because like I said, Maksum can still work that offensive wrestling game. He can piece him up on the feet. So, we'll see. There's no way, only Charles Johnson knows how he's going to come out, but Charles Johnson is not to be trusted. Even at a good plus money price that you're getting, he makes a lot of mistakes in the cage. Fight IQ is very, very low in my opinion. And, it takes a fairly simple game plan to beat him, like we've seen throughout almost his entire UFC career. I don't think he even won that Zumagulov fight, and Zumagulov is a good measuring stick in terms of are you UFC caliber or not, but I mean, he's not anywhere near the top of the division. So yeah, I think Azat continues his streak, keeps his O. Like I said, Charles Johnson has been very, very tough to finish. So, I looked at some Maksum sub props and stuff like that because I do think he's going to be on top, get top position, maybe work some dominant positions, but Charles Johnson sub defense is really, really good. So I'll probably just roll with the 2-unit play on Maksum money line just to win this fight. and keep it rolling. So yeah, like I said, striking very, very well rounded. And I think he can win this fight any way he wants. If it's a 15-minute kickboxing fight, I still favor Maksum in that fight. I still think he covers the -200 price tag, even in a 15-minute kickboxing fight. So yeah, I mean, Charles Johnson is a good fighter, skilled. Take nothing away from him at all. But um, yeah, pretty simple game plan in my opinion. It takes to beat him. So like Azar Maksum to stay undefeated in that one. So the next fight I want to talk about, there's a couple of fights in between. That Maksum fight and the next fight I want to talk about. Um, I'm gonna. There's a couple fights I want to retape. Like the Charles Radke Gilbert Urbina fight. A couple fights I want to tape again and make sure I'm doing my full due diligence. I just can't wrap my head around some of these fights. So definitely stay tuned. You guys are going to be watching this probably sometime Friday afternoon, Friday night. So I may have more action by then, but for now, we'll just skip to the Viviane Araujo and Natalia Silva fight. So Natalia Silva, big favorite, minus. Damn, she's jumping up even more like overnight. Oh, well, not that much. So Natalia's best price on Natalia Silva is -315. Best comeback on Viviane Araujo is +300. So this one is pretty simple for me. Natalia Silva is special. I backed her multiple times throughout her pretty short UFC run already. And not pretty short, actually. What the fuck am I talking about? Pretty long UFC run. And yeah, this will be a 5th UFC fight. Undefeated in the UFC. A lot of people look at a record. I've seen people I've seen some people on Twitter say this, 16-5, that's a decent record, but she can lose and she can be finished, and she's been finished 3 times. That's why context is everything, my brothers. Context is everything. 3 of her first 4 fights ever professionally were all losses, and she got finished in all 3 of those fights. So those are the 3 finishes. Last time she got finished was 2015, which, what are we in? 2024. That was 9 years ago, my friends. And Natalia Silva was like 18 at that time. So I give no credence to those fights at all. Do some better research for those people out there that are saying that shit. But anyways, Natalia Silva is special in my opinion. Still only 26 years old. And we've seen her just be absolutely dominant so far, in my opinion. She's shown to be a pretty reliable finisher. 16 wins, 12 of those by finish, 5 KOs, 7 subs, so pretty well rounded. And we've seen her just be absolutely vicious. Jasmine Jasuda vicious. Girl that I've made money on. I made money fading Jazz, and I just made money on Jazz. When she absolutely bullied the fuck out of Priscilla Cachoeira. And she's a decent test, especially for a UFC debut. She passes that test with flying colors. Next 2 fights, dominant KOs, 1 in the first round. And then fights Andrea Lee, which is a decent size step up. And in my opinion, just absolutely outclasses Andrea Lee. Again, people have different opinions, maybe on that fight, but I think just dominates. 30-27, easiest 30-27 in my life. Just dominates, kind of picks on the outside. I think she could have pressed a little bit more in that fight. I think she could have been a little bit more urgent for a finish, but listen, a win is a win. 30-27. I'm not going to knock you too much for that. Really crisp striking, mixes in the kicks extremely well with the hands, very nasty. She likes to throw a jab and then throw a same side head kick, just extremely nasty. Throws a lot of her shit with fight ending intentions, works the body pretty well with her kicks, works her kicks to all 3 levels, extremely good movement, pretty durable, time she is getting hit, pretty durable. I like the pressure. She can mix in offensive wrestling when she wants. She can just win fights however she wants. And, now we're seeing the market finally starting to catch up to Natalia Silva. We've seen her as big underdogs in some of her fights. I believe against Jasuda Vicious, she was like +200 in her UFC debut. And now we're seeing the market, starting to catch up. Minus 300, minus 350. Fighting Viviana Araujo, who, is dangerous in her own right. She can definitely crack, especially for women's MMA, but she's 37 years old. As she's progressed throughout her career, her last couple of fights, we're seeing her, become slower. We've seen her get hurt a lot more. Um, I just think there's a really bad matchup for Araujo. I really do. Natalia Silva is going to be so much faster, more power in her hands, in my opinion. I don't think more pure power, but I think the mix of speed and accuracy, um, along with the power that she does have, I think makes her punches more dangerous. I think she's going to be more well-rounded on the feet. I think she's going to absolutely outclass Araujo. An 11-year age gap here. Um, fighters that have a 10-year age gap, the younger fighter wins over 70% of the time, which is absurd. And yeah, so I think Natalia Silva finishes this fight. I really do. Seeing how Viviane has looked in her last couple of fights, just how slow she's looked. She's getting hurt way, way more. I think Natalia Silva, as long as this fight goes, I think it's going to stay standing for most of it. I don't necessarily see Natalia Silva coming out with a, oh, I want to, secure 5 takedowns. I don't really see that. Uh, so yeah, in a 15-minute kickboxing fight, you get 15 minutes for Natalia Silva to piece you up. Yeah, Viviane's cardio has not looked amazing either. Her last couple of fights, and Natalia Silva could go all day. So, coming to the end of the second round, third round, I think is going to be all Natalia Silva, and I think Natalia Silva is going to have opportunities to finish this fight. And hopefully she shows that killer instinct, which I believe she has. Like I said in the Andrea Lee fight, I think she let Andrea off the hook a couple of times. I think she could have been a little bit more aggressive, looking for the finish. But like I said, dominant win. Um, Natalia Silva minus 3.5. The point spread on DraftKings like minus 145. I think that's a good way to get the price down. But I'm not in love with point spreads. You're kind of leaving it up to the judge. Like I said, I do think Natalia finishes this fight. So if she finishes, you cash that minus 3.5 bet. But if for some reason she doesn't and it goes to the cards, I think she's gonna win all 3 rounds, which catches that bet. But at that point, your fate is in the hands of the judges, which is not where you want to be. So, um, yeah, like I said, this isn't a good parlay card, so I'm still looking for a way to pair Natalia Silva. I was looking at Natalia Silva and fight to start round 2. I think that was minus 200. I don't mind playing that. I really don't mind. I know it's juiced and people don't like that, blase, blase, blah, whatever the fuck, but I don't mind that at all. So I might play that. I might look at, pairing her with maybe another fight to start round 2 or not to go the distance. I haven't decided yet, but I'm definitely gonna play Natalia Silva. I'm definitely gonna hammer the fuck out of her. Um, I think she's my safest pick on the card. No controversy there. She's fucking minus 300, but um, you know, I really, really like Natalia Silva. I think she has championship potential, not top 15, not top 10, championship potential. And I think she's going to continue to beat the shit out of a lot of girls in the flyweight division. So, yeah, Natalia Silva to the motherfucking moon. But yeah, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. There's some good fights after that Natalia Silva fight. Randy Brown, Muslim Salikov. That's a rebook fight. I'm not in love with that. I really don't trust either guy, especially Randy fucking Brown at minus 275, whatever the fuck he is. Renato Moicano or Drew Dober is going to be a banger. One of the best fights on the card, in my opinion. I lean the plus money, the Drew Dober plus money, but Moicano's a motherfucker. And that's a fight where I just kind of want to sit back as a fan and enjoy it. I do have a lean in the main event. I want to retape it though. I want to retape. I want to watch both of these guys' career again, and just make sure that this is the side I want to be on. But I like Roma Delice. Another dog. He's sitting around plus 140, plus 145. Just world class jiu-jitsu, world class on the mat. Even off his back, we've seen him multiple times. And I think eventually that's where the fight is going to play out. We've seen Nasruddin. Nasruddin obviously wants to stay on his feet, but we've seen him kind of shoot some sloppy takedowns. I think Roman can take advantage of that. Roman can definitely also crack, 7 KOs and 12 finishes. Coming off the loss to Marvin Vettori, but that was a pretty close fight in my opinion. One judge gave him 30-27, but I didn't see that at all. I think it was an extremely close fight in my opinion. And that's coming from an Italian, so not backing Marvin Vittori, but both guys don't have the most insane strength of schedule, but I think this is a really good matchup. Really well made fight, great matchmaking. I favored Delite, especially at underdog odds, getting, plus 140. I know he's 35, he's getting up there in age, but not too much tread on the tires, only 14 pro fights. So I worry a little bit less about the age. He's at a great camp at Extreme Couture. So yeah, I definitely favor him. I think he can win striking exchanges as well. I think Nasruddin can at times be extremely sloppy on the feet, just kind of winging hooks and shit like that. Nasruddin has decent movement, especially with the head, but it's kind of herky jerky. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where I came up with that fucking phrase, but it's kind of weird, just like awkward. Like he could still get his head popped off. Like that's what I'm saying. I'm a little bit back and forth, full transparency. I haven't locked in Roman, but I'm like 80% there. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to retake both fighters and come to a decision. Like I said, you guys are probably going to be seeing this Friday night-ish. So you may have heard from me by then as to what I'm going to do in the main event. But that's it, folks. We'll do a quick recap. I didn't really give out many props either. The props were super late to drop this week. But I'll tell you real quick. I'll kind of lump it into the recap props that I'm probably going to play and are looking at. So I'm on Jamal Pogues money line plus 140. I'm definitely going to play Jamal Pogues round 3. I don't really want to choose between KO and sub. I'm probably just going to play Jamal Pogues round 3. I'm on Markel Mederos money line minus 135. I'm on Jung Young Lee money line minus 150. I am going to take some Jung Young Lee finish props. I do think he finishes this fight. I'm on Azab Maksum money line at minus 200. I am on, and then I like not Vivian. I like Natalia Silva. I'm not gonna play her straight. Obviously, she's too juiced, but I'm gonna find a way to play her and hammer the fuck out of Natalia Silva money line. And then biggest lean is gonna be Roman Delite, another dog on the card, main event, underdog there. Other than that's really it for now. Like I said, I might have 1 or 2 ads, and you guys will hear about that. I'll probably tweet them out. So people that watch the show have access to it too. But yeah, that's it. I'm trying to keep it, like I've said in previous episodes, UFC has not been that kind to me over the last month or so. So, I'm trying to keep the volume a little bit down and just really hammer spots that I really, really like. And try to get some wins under my belt. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, UFC is back after a week off. I know, UFC degenerates. UFC takes a week off and people go fucking crazy. They don't know what to do with their life. But 11 straight weeks of UFC. Hopefully you guys join me every single week for subs and dubs. Try to get you ready for these fights. And we got some huge cards coming up. So if and when you're watching this, I appreciate you guys for clicking the button, for tuning in. Hit that like button if you can for me. It really helps us out a bunch. Kind of shows me that you're liking the content and which gives me the urge to want to do more for you guys. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're dropping content on this channel every single week for a bunch of sports, college, NBA. We'll have Super Bowl content, UFC content, all of the above. So subscribe to the channel. You won't regret that. Once again, shout out to the sponsor of the video, Sleeper Picks. Sign up, download it if you're new to Sleeper Picks. They'll give you a first deposit match up to $500. So amazing deal there. And if you guys find yourself with a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. And that'll do it for me. I appreciate you guys for watching. Hit that like button on your way out. Good luck on all your action. Good luck on the fights. And yeah, let's have a day. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.